This is Atlas Thugged. As much as we have, it's currently a media blackout right now. It's about a 10-minute video here. Get the libertarians out of this party, dude. Part of a new series I'm going to be running called Bot or Not.
I grew up as a white man, and you're the exact opposite, you know?
It's time we have a difficult conversation about race.
40 IQ points it needs to think about what is being told to you.
Most people are just blatantly apathetic to what goes on around in their surroundings, let alone this blatant.
A trans woman's penis make you gay?
Can I define to answer that comment?
The dating market is for men your age. I'm not a misogynist, I'm a sexist. Right, like for example, like as a white man, I can go out and I could go right here in Columbus and scream the N-word as loud as I wanted to because I have that privilege. Those who would sacrifice a little freedom for a little convenience serves neither.
Titan says, Browns should be for whites. We were just trying to help them run a better empire.
Hey, truth.
But she's straight up, she's like, stock market. She's like, bro, like, I can't even buy a fucking house. Like,
And, probably doesn't help that half the comments are, oh, you're not banned on YouTube. Man, how is this guy? How's this guy not banned on YouTube? It's like, yeah, I'm sure YouTube probably picks up on those things. And they're probably wondering why so many people are saying that,
and all these top brass pundits who have some kind of association or relationship with Epstein, it's getting to the point where you got to think like I'm about to go look at my residential history and be like, did I live next to Epstein for like some time? Like, man, everyone was playing must have some relation to Epstein. And then you go, oh, actually, no. This is because the administration is all wrapped in together with it themselves.
And I said this maybe about a year ago. What if Christianity wasn't in such a cucked position that what if Andrew Tate, like Tristan, would have went to a Christian position? Fell for it again award, #1 right here. And you know what? I can't even make fun of the audience because I fell for it too. And that's probably what I'm most pissed about. He's huffing some extreme copium. Oh yeah, sister, you definitely owned him. Hey, can I see you after tonight? It's like that's that's what you're competing up against because or bad jacketing him and calling him a weird little gay.
Is this like alt-right Pope's husband? What am I listening
Yeah.
Okay, stop it. This guy's gonna get into statistics and stuff like that.
Oh, not statistics. Not
So-
we don't do statistics.
Hello and welcome in to another episode of Offensively Accurate, hosted by yours truly, and the Slugged. Today's going to be a bit more casual. I appreciate everybody for being here. I see Ronnie in the chat. My boy declared war on your home. Are you from Venezuela? I would imagine that you probably some combination there. Looks like the Stream Elements bot is in here. No idea why it's in here. But we have a lot to get into. It's going to be a bit more casual, probably a bit shorter than normal. It's going to be a lot of me just riffing. Going to be in my Nick Fuentes element today. But I'm excited for everybody for being here. I'm trying not to be black-pilled. There's a lot to get into, but not too many big things. So we're going to cover a couple reactionary type stuff. Two things that I think are largely very important to look into, but for the most part, we'll cover basically where we currently are at. And largely the question of who is we. Now, this is kind of this topic of the last video that I had posted on two elements. There's kind of two elements to who is we. The first is the element of they versus us, right? This is more so the element of the American people versus the elites. Now, this kind of goes in lockstep with what Nick Fuentes largely made the last stream of his about, which was the current element that we are in is that we are getting nothing. All the politicians, the elites, Silicon Valley, they're getting a lot. They're winning. They're having a golden age. But we are not. The second element is the MAGA kind of capturing and the conservative elements of this too. So this is something that I've been talking about for a while. Now, this actually kind of goes back to Calendargate, but it was there before then. And it's largely the aspect of a lot of people call themselves conservative, but very few actually are. This is the same thing with Christianity. A lot of people call themselves Christian, but very few of them are. Call them Sinos or rhinos, if you will, Christian in name only. Now, this actually goes back to a bit more of a semantic argument, but it's more so a lot of these conservatives are basically just liberals who don't like transgenders. And that's the basis of the second element of it. So a lot to get into. We'll explore some of those concepts. We have the Venezuelan regime change coming along now. This is a development that, to be quite frank with you, I could care less about. But that's just, of course, the way it is. Maybe actually move this chat around. I'm in a new setup, and I'm kind of blocking that. So let me move it to the left-hand side. That looks better. Venezuelan regime change, Department of War. We're changing from the Department of Defense to Department of War. We have just so much winning going on. But the Venezuelan regime change, I'll get into a little bit. We also have the deportation numbers looking awful. But again, I didn't need a guest to tell you that. You didn't need a guest to tell you that. Everybody knows it. They can feel it. They go to their stores. They go to Walmart. They go down the street. They go to the gym. Everybody knows the deportations are not happening the way we would like them to be. Now, that's the second element. The third is the Epstein stuff and the latest development that we got with that, which to me is just, it's wild how much people are just lying to themselves with the Epstein stuff. It's insane. And I'll cover a little bit about the Fed jacketing aspect with Nick. There's a lot of people in my Discord as well, and somebody who asked personally to cover a little bit of that. So we have a video of Nick explaining it himself. I'll address it probably the last time. And just because I think that there still is a little bit of hesitation for a lot of people with Nick, for whatever reason, people want to kind of contribute that to be. So we'll just cover it a little bit, but it seems, again, I can't blame people for having hesitation. There's about 110 different psyops happening, but at the same time, you have to look at the accusers. And I think the answer lies in who is accusing who. You take a good look at who is throwing these accusations, who is hurling all of the downtrodden words. It makes a lot more sense there. And then we have this Ukrainian refugee, this woman. This video is going viral, and it's largely captioned with, "She'd have been safer on the front lines of the war." We'll get into that. I'm sure many of you have probably already seen that video, and if you've not, it'll probably piss you off just the same way that it pisses me off. But it is good to see everybody in here. I do appreciate it very much. We're going to get back to a bit more of the solo streams. You guys spoke. I will answer. It seems a lot of people would prefer I come back to a bit more of the solo element and cover more news, more so than interviews. Not to say the interviews are going away, but I will dial them back a bit and do a bit more solo streams. But with that is kind of the only announcement we have for today. Christ is King. That is correct, Treadlam. The only announcement that I have, well, there's two actually, but they're going to be on the same day. So the first is going to be on September 9th, this coming Tuesday. I'm going to be interviewing the Portuguese Nick Fuentes. So instead of NJF, I'll be interviewing PNF. And in the same day, if it's coordinated and it works, I'll also be having an appearance on Future Nation with Tyler Russell. But hold off on that. I haven't confirmed if that time works with him. But at some point this week, I will be making an appearance with Tyler Russell on his show. But let's get out of the way. Let's start with this. Hopefully you guys love the thumbnail. I might just make that a permanent live stream thumbnail, to be quite honest with you. I like the AF Goiper aspect. And I know people are probably irritated at the Chargers hat, people who hate sports ball. But let's be honest, Justin Herbert was aura farming all game last night. So I just had to. Anyways, that's a side point. Regime change in Venezuela. Why is it happening? Why is it important? Is it even important at all? So what we're having, and this has been going on for the last couple of weeks, although I've not been paying as much attention to it as probably others have been, partially because I could not care less about Maduro and Venezuela. But now the question becomes, why is there such an effort and a focus on it? Now, I think the story basically is, I think the idea behind it is the fact that, Maduro, what they're saying is that Maduro simultaneously is running Tren De Aragua and is also the head of the cartel of the Suns. I believe I'm getting that right. And so the idea is that if he's the leader of the country, he's also running these two huge cartels. And these cartels are supposedly major players in pushing all of these drugs through the southern border. That's kind of the pretense. That's the premise of what this is. Now, you look a bit deeper into it, you find that some things don't add up. So if we were to start with this, we have the fact that this has actually been going on for a long time. And that was news to me. So supposedly this has been a 20-year thing. Apparently Trump actually also attempted, some level of infiltration into Venezuela during his first administration. But the recent stuff that you've probably seen and on video that they brag about is the Tren De Aragua vessel that was destroyed. The film was all over X there for a little bit. You can find the clip. But in response to that attack, the Venezuela Air Force flew military aircraft over, I believe it was the USS Jason Dunham. So they're actually, it's a bit of the saber rattling, right? Show of force. They're kind of, wink, wink at each other, pulling their swords out. So we threatened surgical strikes. And on top of that, we basically said, do it again and we'll take you out of the sky. So that's kind of where the tensions are at. Now, again, this falls under the line of regime change. And I think for most people, when you hear regime change, you think, okay, what is the benefit America's going to get by changing the regime? Now, the pretense of what they are telling you is that the reason for regime change would be if they get Maduro out of power, they depose him, they get someone else in power who's not linked to the cartels, that's in some way going to ultimately change the dynamic of the southern border and how many drugs are flowing over, across it. That's supposedly what the pretense is. Venezuela has an air force. Again, this is something that I'm it's entirely out of my purview. And again, geopolitical only because, and the only reason I know an ounce about it is because I've seen it tangentially on my X timeline and also listening to Nick cover it as well. That's basically the extent of my knowledge. But I do think it's something worth paying attention to, largely because, well, for one, this is the No New Wars. This is the No New Wars president, and this is now how many regime changes in one administration we're about to experience. I mean, let's be honest with ourselves. And from that, obviously we have the Iranian stuff, and I think just on its surface, the No New Wars president is the same president that is changing the Department of Defense to the Department of War. I mean, the optics around this presidency have been just mind-blowingly nonsensical, incoherent, because at the same time, everyone in their corner is like, I've trust the plan. This is exactly what I voted for. This is exactly what I wanted. And it's like, brother, 7 months ago, you said you were voting for Trump because of No New Wars. Now you've backed literally every ounce of military action. And again, this goes back to the main question. Who is we? Who is us, right? Who is we? So I don't consider myself MAGA. I was off that train years ago, to be quite honest with you. And that's the second element of it, which is you have people like Chat Turd and these other kind of just lowbrow, barely pay attention, barely read headline simps, like Ronnie's saying, simps for Trump simps. And they're basically saying they look at me, the Christian nationalist who wants to repeal the 19th and push for race realism. And they go, we, why are you saying we? Why are you saying we? It makes no sense. It's we don't have the same end goals. And in fact, the closer we get to achieving end goals that we actually, so there's two elements, right? Reactionary. So a lot of what we agree on in the big tent conservative is reactionary. We agree because everyone looks around and they go, okay, dude, child sex changes? No way. We all agree on that. MAGA agrees with that. Christian nationalism agrees with that. But that's the beginning of it. Because once that goes away, you take some of that power away. We go, okay, so what are the solutions? Well, MAGA conservatives are kind of bit in this libertarian ethos where they're just, everyone, as long as it's not bothering anybody, you can be trans as long as you're not bothering anybody. But that's not my position. How about you? How about you're not trans at all? You see what I'm saying? How about we ban it, period? How about we ban it for adults and kids and we ban it forever? How about we have book burnings, right? But that's the end point. That's one element of it. And then, yeah, I'm a robot. That's funny. Somebody said that my voice was AI. Everybody thinks my voice is AI. There's no getting around it. And on the other element, I brought this up too on the aspect of Islam, and as it pertains to the woman question as well. So with Islam, when you think about it, you go, obviously I don't believe in Islam. I'm not a Muslim. I believe Christ is king. I believe all of the tenets of the Christian faith. But when I look at Islam, I see the way they dress the women, and I'm like, I kind of wish we had a little bit more of that. Wish we had a little bit more of that here in the States. I wish our women respected themselves and didn't, flaunt their bodies, their naked bodies everywhere and wear the most tightest yoga pants ever designed, But the mega guys go, yeah, we need to go blow those Muslims up because they make the women wear clothes. I'm like, we aren't, there's no we here. Right? It's like all we agree on is like some of the stuff that needs to be done away with. But that's obvious because any person with a higher than 40 IQ would go, definitely children should not be chopping their balls off. So there's no we there. Right? And so that's the idea behind who's we. And I'm glad Nick sort of tackled this a bit. But it also extends to the aspect of there's no we here when the politicians are winning, right? When JD Vance wins, when, the Republicans win, when there's no we here, right? How many of you how many here in chat have honestly sat there and go, you know what? I relate to the GOP. Mike Johnson, he represents me. Get the F out of here. No, he does not. No, they don't. Ron DeSantis does not represent me. It's been, Lord have mercy, it's been so long since I felt like a politician represented me. And Trump had that energy. That was part of the energy. He was the first in a long time, and everyone's heard this story a million times, but that was part of it. That was the original energy that most people kind of gravitated towards was, this guy's not one of them. And by them meaning those kind of deep state elitists, like, blackmail operation tied to intelligence agencies, the alphabet guys, like that is them. And I don't put myself in that category, and you shouldn't either. And two, like, how do you even find yourself putting yourself in that category? It's ridiculous. And that's going to be some of the basis as we get a little bit further into this. Going back to the Venezuela stuff, we have this pretense. Now, Nick, yeah, 07 to you guys, appreciate that. It's awesome. Nick said, and I'll take his word for it, because I'm not going to dive any much deeper into it as far as I can find it on the timeline, because I don't care that much. But Nick says that this pretense of, Maduro having all this power and being tied to the cartels is actually fabricated. But we have Pete Hegseth, who said they haven't ruled out regime change. And this is now going to be Yemen, Somalia, Gaza, Ukraine still going on, Iran, obviously, and, and Venezuela now. So some of the claims that Nick made that I'm just going to pose out there, I'm going to throw them out there, ultimately because I've not vetted them, but at the same time, I'm not going to be looking, until it gets to be a bit more serious issue, I'll take it a bit more serious. I ought to leave it like that. This is what I would say. The three claims. Supposedly, the cartel of the Suns might not even exist. And that's the first aspect. Whoever this cartel of the Suns may not even exist. So again, take that with a grain of salt. The second thing is that Nick believes very evidently that Maduro is not the head of Tren De Aragua. So that's the second kind of hole in this major pretense. And the third is also that the drug running that Venezuela contributes to is actually a very minor portion of the overall problem. So there's three kind of big holes in their pretense. And again, so make of that what you will. So I wanted to just spend the time to kind of break that down a little bit on the Venezuela. And I think what you would take from that then would be if for one, you don't have to guess. The government will always lie to you. They always are, with nearly every word that leaves their mouth. So the foundation is the government should have to prove it to me. The government should have to go out of their way to prove to me what they're saying is real. And if I don't believe it without a shadow of a doubt, okay, it's a lie. That's the way. I would not. You are a fool if you take the government at its word. I don't care if I voted for the guy yesterday to get into office. I will still take everything they say with a grain of salt because I do not trust the government. And I think that should be a very easily acceptable, very neutral baseline we should all arrive to. But I think with that, though, the question you would face and you would ask is, why then? what is the goal? Or is the goal to be able to then use the same kind of pretense another time around? And so take from that what you will. A lot of times this is, if it's a fabricated pretense, it's largely meant to uphold a precedent. So that way, when a future action occurs, they would say, well, hey, look, we'll look at this precedent. We did this here, but what they could be pointing to ultimately is a complete fabrication. So that's the other element. Moving on to the deportation numbers. This is the other part that will more than likely piss most people off. We finally got them. Finally got some numbers in our hands. Now, this has been an extreme point of contention between the plan trusters and the panicans. Panicans, raise your hand. I don't even know what I consider myself, but that's kind of the split. The plan trusters and the panicans. You have the people who will attribute 90 bajillion D chess to any action the Trump administration takes because they are blindly believing in it. They have more faith, quite honestly, in the Trump administration than they do in God. That is how I would articulate and describe the average plan truster. Second to that, you have the panicans. That would include basically anybody with the ability to critically think or analyze. So if you are not retarded, that probably is you. They've obviously been suppressing the number because the numbers are extremely low. And the reason why they have had to go through such an extreme concerted effort, if you will, to suppress the numbers and kind of obfuscate them and then bring in all these other pundits to back them up for why it doesn't seem exactly that way, is because most basic people can do math. They can go times 12 and times 4. They go, in 1 month, this happened. Okay, times 12. Well, in a year, times 4. Okay, because it's very basic mathematics you could do to understand, well, what would this look like by the end of his term? How many would that be by the end? So that's why they have to suppress the numbers and lie about it constantly, because the average person would just grab a calculator with a number that was given, and they would do some quick math, and they would go, oh, shit, we're nowhere near even getting close to what we need to deport. So from that, we get the numbers not because the government was so excited to hand them out to us. We got the numbers because somebody filled a FOIA request to compel the government to be honest to us. And with that, the numbers are 145,000. Now it's missing a month. So these numbers, 145,000 deportations, that's the number that was obtained in the FOIA request, and that is comprehensive, meaning that includes self-deportations. From January 20th to July 31st. So this actually misses the entire month of August. So add on 100 deportations to that number. It's not good, guys. It is not good. I've fought blackpilling all day today, but I have felt the drums of war for quite some time. I say that, no, I'm lying to you. I've been in a pretty good spot. I've had a lot of good optimism, Lord forgive me, about the current kind of situation we're in and the way we're kind of handling, the way it seems like Nick is kind of blowing up, the way it seems like the right wing is kind of moving a bit more, the Overton window is shifting. But I did feel the drums of war earlier today, because there's, as much as we want to look at it, no matter the way you want to cut it out, we are categorically having to fight in literally every element, every aspect. It's tough, man. You know, and part of it is, you know, I see a lot of these young guys, especially the young guys in the Discord. I mean, they can't even get a wife or a woman or the girlfriend or even a woman to look at them. And, you know, when I see the guys who are fighting on the front lines, and I see the guys who are like articulate, they, you know, they're well dressed, they're well kept, they have at least an ounce of charisma to move forward. That's because they typically have a lot of their stuff together, you know, meaning they're married, they have kids. And I do see that as a big gap, but categorically in the fact of like, it's every element, it's economics, it's social life, it's physicality, it's the food we eat. I mean, it's like we are up against a battle that is every element. You cannot look in a certain spot and not see some level of degeneracy and not see some level of just brokenness, evil, subversion, you know, deracination. It is everywhere you look. And so I probably went a good couple months feeling very optimistic on the high note, and it kind of hit me a little bit, and largely because there's a bit stuff happening personally in my personal life that's kind of tailing this a bit. But I try not to mix the two. But it is, and so for me, if it's like I'm doing this and doing great and having a good time with it, if I'm even struggling, it makes me kind of think like all of the guys who are less fortunate, right, or maybe in a worse situation, maybe had something else happen, maybe something's going on with their wife or their mother or their family just in general, and so I do get it. And so the point being is like we have to keep hopeful. Yeah, you have to keep the hope. And so there's just like a short lesson in there. But as it pertains to deportations, though, it wasn't a willing publishing of numbers. We had to FOIA it out of them. We had to go, government, be honest with us. We had to use legal mechanisms to make the government be honest with us. Again, in correlation to what I had said earlier. It equals out to about 750 deportations a day. I think most people know here, especially, that what we need, quite literally, is close to around it's like 6,000 a day. It's like 3,000 or 6,000, and obviously it changes depending on the pace. So if it's like if you take away 6 months, that was that extreme below average pace, well, then that would mean then the next month would have to be much, much higher. And so obviously it needs to be in the thousands. We're not even close to it. I think it's like anywhere between 3,000 and 6,000 a day. I know that's a big range, but it's been a minute since I've done the math. Looking at it. The only way out is through. Super chat here from Ronnie. Appreciate that, brother. Thank you very much for the donation. The only way out is through. It's funny you bring that up because there's a Zeb Boykin meme that he made. It's one of the ones that's called tap the sign. And it House had pointed it out in the outside the Overton Discord, which was pretty cool. There's a Telegram that's got about 3,000 people in there, and they posted Zeb's meme. And the meme basically reads, this was forced onto us by gunpoint. It can and will be reversed by gunpoint. So that was the meme that was there from Zeb Boykin. So pretty spot on. But that's ultimately where I'm at with it. I'm in no position to give up. I'm in no position to back down. None of that. And that's partly when I look at future prospects, man, I'm like, dude, Lord, if I go apply for a job interview, they see my YouTube, I might be having some challenges. Sure, Sears and Walmart might not care, but somewhere else might. Is Sears even around anymore? I don't think it is, man. I'm getting old. So that's it. The deportations, we're not getting them. But we haven't been getting them, and we've known for a hot minute that we weren't going to get them. Imperfect Citizen says less than 1.4 million estimated total by 2028. Biden oversaw greater than 10 million illegal entries. Yeah, and that's a low end estimate. Obviously, there's kind of three figures that's been getting floated around. Now, I think the ultimate reality is if you combine legal and illegal, we know for sure there's 55 million visa holders here. You combine that with what I believe. So let's split the middle. You have some people saying 10 million illegals. There's no way. I know it's so much higher than that. So you have two other elements, or two other projections. You have the 65 million, and you also have the 40 million. So let's split the difference. We'll take 40. So you have 40 million illegals compared with 55 million visa holders, so legal immigrants. And then anyone else who might have gotten their citizenship in the last couple of years, we can include them too. I think it's going to be well over 100 million. You're going to have 105, 110 somewhere in there. So we're getting close to a third of the population is not American. I mean, that is a serious problem. And, in the great words of Richard Spencer, which I do agree, legal immigration is seriously a much more pervasive problem than illegal immigration. Tom Holman, are you with us? Tom Holman, can you hear me? Where's this guy been? They flaunted Tom Holman, tough on crime. We'll deport the kids too. Guy's been MIA. I haven't seen a post with Tom Holman in 5 months. Not since month one of the presidency. But, Imperfect Citizen is correct. We are on pace for around 1 million or so, which, let's put that in perspective. So put that into perspective. Seriously, put it into perspective. And we're going to extrapolate this. We're going to do some quick maths again. Apologize to any of my, any black men who follow me in the audience or try to show the work a little bit. I'm just kidding. It's a joke. Don't be offended. The idea would be if we deport 1 million out of 10 million, anecdotally, if that was to stretch across the nation, what we would be thinking would be, okay, that means 1 out of 10 illegals are gone now. Do you seriously think your neighborhood, your economy are going to improve if instead of 10 illegals working at Steak and Shack, there are 9 illegals and 1 white man? No. The answer is no. So it's clearly not good enough. Now, if you extrapolate that to the 40 million. So now instead of being around, 10%, we're going to deport 2.5%. Or 1 out of 40. It's just like, we're not getting deportations, man. We're not going to. Don't expect it to happen. Forgive me, I've banged my desk like 5 times. With the chair, not like JD Vance would a couch. Just kidding. Everybody knows it's made up story, but it was weird. This obviously tracks with everything that I had been thinking for a while. Now, I even thought about going to the old podcast I was a part of with the Jarpin's podcast and pulling some of that up, just because I was very vocal about it for a while on that podcast, leading into the beginning of this administration, which was this. And I'll go through a short summary of it. You think the people, the conservatives that are flexing about how they're so not racist, they love all people of all colors, how they love and are so accepting of homosexuals, are going to be the same ones who are going to be pushing militantly millions of brown people out of this country? Come on, man. We have to stop lying to ourselves. We have to start being real with ourselves. We have to start being pragmatic. We have to start looking at the people to my left and to my right and going, will this person push a brown person out of this country? No, probably not. Probably not. He'd have to look at his wife before he did anything. Get out of here. You ain't my brother, dude. Get out of here. But this was a very easy observation to make, because all you'd have to do is go, well, let's look at the biggest conservative organization that's kind of, operative, right? TPUSA. Oh, look, there's TPUSA. Whoa. Oh, do they have a white speaker? Oh, they do. He's like the 13th one. Oh, and he's gay. Oh, he's gay. So then you have like things like the gay conservative or the gay Republican, whatever he is, dude. He rage baited for like 4 months in a row, posting all this stuff about like, are you conservative? Do you accept me? Why not? And he's just rage baiting, knowing that the conservative foundation has been hollowed out. Rage baiting, knowing that he's going to sit there and get all these replies from everybody who's an actual Christian who would not put up with homosexuality, and just grifting off of it. And leveraging himself, boosting himself off of our distaste with their lack of faith of being Christians, not being Christians, actually. Leveraging your anger to get to, what is it, like 30, 40, 50, 60,000 followers, whatever it is now. And there you go. Everyone in here, right, who has like 300 followers, understand there's a conservative that has more digital influence than you, and he's gay, and he wields it against your anger. Right? The guy has more influence than me. Second thing was, again, I've always been skeptical about this. Said it from the beginning. And Republicans are really, they can only believe so far as what they are allowed to believe. And so what I mean by that is they don't have a backbone. The moment that they would start getting pressed by a Disney adult, they would go, well, it's not like this. Well, pathetic, man. Pathetic. And I begin, the longer I've been doing this, the more I seriously have really begun to understand the anger from Nick. I do. It precludes my day. It is one of those things I have to seriously like ask God for help with. I'm like, please give me the strength to like not let this anger consume me. Because it's so in my face. It is like, I mean, how many times do you seriously think you can get spit in the face before you would react? Once? Twice? I mean, seriously, how many times can you be spit in the face before you would react? Now, if you're Brandon Tatum, you'll take it from a rabbi and you'll lick it up. I don't know if anybody saw that, but dude, that guy needs to go. That token black needs gone from conservative media. I doesn't believe a thing, dude. And sorry if that was loud. I apologize. I had energy drink today. But then we go to the optics element of it too. Okay, so we were going to either need to deputize like around the country, like federally, whether that was going to be through like sheriff's offices or whether that was going to be through like, local police and local police departments. But we didn't get that. We didn't get the deputization. I think we even had sheriffs like asking, and like there's another law enforcement agency I'm not thinking of. It's not the DEA, like the U.S. Marshals. That's who it was. Like they were basically like opening themselves up and saying, "Hey, we'll do this. Like, come deputize our guys. We're completely down with it. We'll go ahead." You had sheriffs across the nation like open up to it. Hasn't happened. Or okay, we'll go the second route. We'll go more militant. Well, okay, that's about the optics. Use the military. Just straight up get the National Guard to handle the deportations in their own states. Get the infrastructure built up. Get it coordinated. Get the right times and the dates and the judges these people got to get sent to. And boom, bada bing, get them out of here. Because now I'll bring this up again. Iran, while they're fighting a war on multiple fronts, had 1 million deportations of just Afghan refugees. There's like 1 million of them in like 2 or 3 months using buses. But the issue is the supreme leader of Iran doesn't look to New York Times before he decides if something's the right thing to do or not. But that's what our guys do. Donald Trump goes, well, I would do this thing, but are they going to say mean words about me? No, I guess I can't. I have to turn my back on literally every single person who has shed sweat, blood, and tears for this movement because I refuse to do something if the New York Times is going to say something bad about me. That's what I at first thought it was. And then you bring in Israel and obviously the clear kind of connections with everything, and then you go, oh, okay, oh, all right. They'll do literally anything for them, not us. We will bomb Iran against the ever-loving wishes of the entire base. We will tell the base they are Democrats and he doesn't even want us because we want more truth about the Epstein files. But we can't get deportations. Understand, like, hold on. I'm getting angry. I want to not be angry. But understand where we are. Understand where we are. And now I brought this up, right? It's no longer an element of like trusting the plan. And I'll say this for like the third time. Categorically, you have to trust the plan on every element, right? You have to trust the plan on deportations. You have to trust the plan economically. You have to trust the plan. It's every single aspect. Categorically, you have to trust the plan. And then everyone sits there and tells you that we're winning. This is exactly what we wanted. Well, that's crazy, bro, because I still cannot get in Costco without smelling curry. I haven't seen a white person in 4 days, and I'm in the middle of the country in Ohio. The next person that keeps telling me to not believe house, dude, bro. Dog, please. The next person that seriously, well, I'm not going to do anything, but you got to stop you can't listen to people who tell you not to believe your lying eyes. Oh, it's not real. Everything you're seeing, experiencing is not real. Look at this meme online. Look at this nice fancy meme. Look, $50,000 signups for deportations. The Border Patrol is like if you separated the border, just the border element, like Border Patrol, all the infrastructure there, and just the budget that they were allocated from the big beautiful bill, they'd be the third largest military in the country, and we're not getting deportations. Our president is a cuck. The majority of conservatives are cucks. They lie like they breathe. They grift off of your pain and your hope. They live lives because it doesn't affect them anymore. That is who is we, right? The next person that tells you that they're winning, right? That they're winning, take the hint, because they probably are. They're probably being paid to post. They're probably in contact with somebody from pro-India messaging. They've probably already been a part of an influenceable campaign. Of course they're winning. They're getting paid to subvert this country. There's no we here. Don't ever say we and not say you believe in God ever again. I believe in God. I believe in Jesus Christ. I believe that we should repeal the 19th. I believe our government's lied to us. I believe Israel controls this country to a degree that cannot be accepted ever again. Stop saying we if you don't believe those things. There's no we. And then we'll move into the Epstein stuff. Let's go to the Epstein stuff. So we have, like, it just keeps getting better, dude. It just keeps getting better. So I don't know. I really don't know what to think about this. I think there's a portion of this, I think, honestly, that is Mike Johnson said something he wasn't supposed to. Because I don't think this was coordinated. I can't, it's hard for me to believe that, truly. So the Epstein debacle, it's on its like 9th phase. We're on chapter 14 of the 5th book. The cycle that won't stop. This is what we have with it. Mike Johnson, along with the majority of all of the Republicans, have been getting continually pressured to be a part of the discharge petition, which was headed by like Thomas Massie, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Ro Khanna. At the same time that this major conference is going on, where you're having these accusers come out and speak, Donald Trump quadruples down, calls the entire thing a Democrat hoax. For I think it's like the 4th or 5th time now. I'm losing track, to be honest with you. Mike Johnson was being questioned. Now, I believe he was being questioned after the conference, not during the conference, but after the conference. And as he was being questioned, he lets it be known that Donald Trump is actually, the reason he's named through the entire files is because he was an informant for the FBI. He's working with the feds. He was in there. He's in there. Dude, it's, I can't even say it with a straight face. It's such a lie. It's such a bold-faced lie. But that's what Mike Johnson said. Mike Johnson said that the reason that Trump is named in these files is because he was working with the FBI, alongside the FBI, which, quite frankly, means that he lied then all in the past. I saw somebody go through all the previous times Donald Trump had said he's never had contact with the FBI and all this other stuff. He lied. So we're going from there is no list, there is a list, there's a list and Donald Trump's in it because the Democrats had chain of custody for it and they put his name in it, to what we get from James O'Keefe, which is, okay, the Republicans are finally going to release the list, but they're going to redact all the Democrat or all the Republican names and the Democrat names will stay on there, to now Donald Trump's in there because he was working with the FBI because his main goal was to get Epstein. And that's the reason why he was at Make of that what you will. I can bring you the information, but I cannot take you to the promised land. You know, I got a chat here from Georgina Groyd. It says, "Oh man, you're in Ohio, and that's your problem." I think Ohio has specifically been getting targeted. I've had some talks with people from like Pennsylvania, like John Ward, for example. What's up, D's Knives? And what's up to everybody who's in here who I haven't said? I know I've been riffing for a minute. I've been not really paying attention to chat that much. But talking with John Ward, you know, he's got a pretty big YouTube channel. I interviewed him not too long ago. And we were talking about it a bit because I think he thinks that Pennsylvania is also being targeted as well. If everybody remembers the eating the cats and the dogs, you know, the story of all the Haitians that were dropped off, I think it's like 14,000 in the middle of Springfield. That wasn't the only instance. It was one of like 10 that happened within a few months, actually. There was a bunch of them that were popped and dropped in all of these kind of small towns, right? Like all of this, like, you know, like things you've never heard of, right? Like some town called like Camel Bake, you know, Ohio. It's got like 800 people in it. 2,000 Venezuelans dropped off. It's sad and it sucks. Because it's like, this is like my home territory, right? It's like, I actually, you know, I do. Like, I'm a human being. Like, that's my home, right? Like, I have a very sentimental tie to Ohio. So there is an element to me where I go, I don't want to leave Ohio, right? But at this point, it's kind of like, you know, where else would you even go? You know, well, I guess Idaho, Tennessee, Maybe there are a couple better states. New Hampshire. I could go the northeast route, but I feel like those people over there are weird. Sorry, Donnie, but I do feel like those people up there are a little weird. It's kind of like Bernie Sanders territory. Like they snowboard and stuff. What kind of white person are you? Listen, I'm a hillbilly. Like I would get along with whites from Louisiana. Like that's where I came from, man. Like the hick hillbilly redneck era. Like half wiggers, half hickabillies. Like that's my territory. I don't know if I'd get accepted by the better whites who snowboard and ski up in the Northeast. That's just a side point though. But go back to finish off the Epstein stuff though. I think the main thing I really kind of want to drive down here though is, for one, who believes this shit? Forgive me. Who believes this stuff? I don't. The flip-flopping has been insane. Obviously, I think at this point, anyone who's still believing, like I don't even know what to make of it, and I've been skeptical of it from the onset. I have no idea. Like I'm about to go check in on some of my very sad, Trump loyalists and see what they're saying about this, right? Like how are they coping, dude? It's got to be 11D chest, 12D chest, 13D chest. Like I don't know. You got to be coping somehow, man. Your supreme leader, like this guy's over here saying, like our leader's Mexican. Yeah, your leader, your leader has abused children. Okay, like what? Yeah, like that's a real own, man. Like that's a group I'd want to be a part of. Dude, and you still have Dark Brandon, dude. Man, I guess maybe it's part of the response. Maybe some people are just getting stuck in denial. We need to help this guy. Chat, can we help Dark Brandon understand, see the light? Are we going to seriously need the power of Thor to get this guy's tongue removed from Donald Trump's backside? I don't know. That's beyond me. You can stay with them. I'm not in the business of convincing anybody anymore. If you can't see it, I don't have the tools equipped to provide you the 30 IQ points you would need to have the capacity to think critically. I guess if that even makes sense to you. Otherwise, just keep spamming the chat and being ignorant. But none of the excuses make sense. It's not logical. It's incoherent. They cannot bury the story. They're trying so hard. They cannot bury the story. And they thought they could swindle all of us. Every single one of us. They mass grafted. They took everybody, dude. They took Dan Bongino. They took Kash Patel. They got Pim Bondi, which probably should have been, Matt Gaetz, but there's probably a deeper reason for that. They took all of these bigwigs, right? Pete Hegseth, JD Vance, the Dream Team, Marco Rubio, Stephen Miller. They mass grafted all of these people that the average person probably would have a bit more of a level of trust into, and they crippled it. They destroyed it. They burned every ounce of their credibility at the altar of please believe us, Epstein didn't do anything. They burned every single one of those people's careers, credibility. Dan Bongino is going to lose half his audience, never going back. Kash Patel basically has to work for the government at this point, and we still don't believe them. That's got to be pain. That's got to be pain. You worked your whole life with these careers, right? Dan Bongino was running this fantastic podcast, Voice for the People. And you burnt your credibility because you are a weak, pedantic, pathetic man who is unwilling to do what is required. Now, sure, maybe that's easy for me to say from someone who's probably ultimately has a lot less to lose. Who cares, dude? This is part of the lesson of the why it is harder for a rich man to get into heaven than a poor man. You have so many more hoops. You have to make so many more different kind of assessments when you make choices because you have a lot more to lose. You have a lot more under your purview. I kind of like it here. I kind of like not being rich. I kind of like being able to see things for what they are. I kind of like feeling like a normal person. And I feel like that's something that these people lost touch with a long time ago. There's no we. Who's we? Kash, go back to India. Wherever the hell you're from. Dan Bongino? Pathetic stuff, dude. Pathetic stuff. So those kind of like the main story stuff I wanted to touch on, kind of give my commentary on that a little bit. We got three kind of other things we're going to cover. Again, we're just going to do a rerun of the Fed jacketing that's been happening to Nick, still happening. You know, it's funny because in the Discord, I had asked, you know, I was like, shoot me some things you guys want me to talk about. You know, if anything's on your mind, you want to see what my take on some of these things would be. And of those things, one of them was, you know, my thoughts on why Nick wasn't arrested for January 6th. So we'll explore that. I feel like I've probably talked about it before, but we'll explore that a little bit. And it's funny because it's funny. It's actually kind of really funny. The person that he sent me, I was unfamiliar with the account because he sent this post that was kind of like poking a little bit, like, you want to explore this concept a little bit? And my response was immediately, I was like, I bet you if I looked up this account and I just searched in their history, I would find them also calling Patriot Front a Fed too. And lo and behold, I typed in Patriot Front, Fed, and 3 posts later, there it is. Why aren't these guys in jail? Why aren't just like that, called it. So we'll explore that a little bit. And the one thing I guess I can touch on too is that the Department of War is unfinished. You know, it's Department of Defense to Department of War. And again, think about it optically. Here's your No New Wars president changing the Department of Defense. And I get it was originally called that, but instead of the Department of Defense, it's now the Department of War, but they forgot 2 words: for Israel. For Israel. Department of War for Israel. Then it would make sense. And I'd be like, oh, okay, at least they're being honest for once. Department of War for Israel. That's what it should say. Then it would be like, oh, this is very honest. Like, dude, wow, they're being very honest and open. Like I hate it, but I'll take the honesty. I'll respect that. Oh, okay. Hey, truth. Hey, okay, fair, okay. It's all of these things that like only like a beer guzzling, beer gut having, sports ball watching from 9 a.m. to midnight enjoying person would clap at. And this goes to a second kind of smaller story, which is I had read about a North Korean operation that had went bad. And I posted in the Discord, and I wish I would have put it in the outline because I would love to have it on screen, but I'll basically give you the gist of it. Largely, it was an operation in North Korea that went wrong because a fishing boat was in a spot that it wasn't supposed to be in this military operation we ran in North Korea. You know what our government did, or what our guys did? They killed every single one of those fishermen and scrambled out. You know, there comes a time where you have to recognize what the perception of who we are to other countries is. Oh, I get you, Brown Groper. I watch sports ball too. I don't, I can talk about sports and race realism and also not let it consume me. And I wish more people would do it too. Polymaths, if you will. But on a serious note, you read stuff like that and you have to, we are empire. We are the empire. If this is a Star Wars analogy, we are the empire. That is the stormtroopers. When we're congratulating our Marines, you are giving a badge to a stormtrooper. Now, I understand that the men who put themselves in service are of belief that they are doing the right thing. I get that. I'm not saying it's all nefarious on those ends. What I am saying is a lot of times they don't even know what they're doing. They're just being given orders. It's a very common theme, whether it's Border Patrol, Marines, police. I'm just following orders. That is not what the other people want to hear when, like, think about it. Like these North Korean farmers, like, are fishermen, wives, daughters, sons, wondering why their husbands and fathers aren't coming back in a country where their lives are already living hell. And we kill them, just gone because they were in the wrong place at the wrong time. I hate what America represents as a governmental system. I don't hate what America is and its ideas and what it was meant to be, but I hate the current iteration of it. Front to back, up and down, left and right, everybody that's in there, Dude, Lord have mercy. It's no wonder why we are getting a judgment from God and being invaded by foreigners. How many innocent people has the American government slaughtered in the last 10 years, 20 years? Christian nation, my ass. Who's we? Who is we? And I ain't my team. I don't want anything to do with that. I don't. Now, obviously, some operations are different. Some things out of defense are different. I get that. But the amount of destabilization operations, the amount of regime change operations, the amount of applause that we saw for the terrorist attack that was taken out by Israel with pagers that resulted in children dying. I can't, dude. I can't. And I'm somebody who's not anti-war. I would obviously understand the rationale if it was warranted, but I'm anti just blowing random people and kids and children up across the world because it's our only way we can cling to power. That's disgusting. I don't know. Maybe I'm being a bit too human. So let's go to this video. So this is basically, we're going to watch Nick explain himself. We don't need to watch the full video, but we're going to watch a little bit of it. It's going to be Nick Fuentes basically walking through some of the allegations from him and why he gets fed jacketed all the time. So I'm going to switch it over to here. Hopefully all the audio stays okay. Yes, it does. Okay. Let's pull this up. Oh man, where's my display capture? My window capture. Where's my display capture? Let me fix this, guys. I apologize. Oh, Lord have mercy. There we go. It's this one. All right, now you guys can see it. Should be able to see it. Noir, yes, I did see that. J.D. Vance responded to one of the Krasenstein brothers, and yeah, now the Krasensteins are slimy, disgusting people too, so keep that in mind. But I did see that response that J.D. Vance was basically saying, like, I don't give a shit what you call it, in response to him saying, you know, what we did to the Venezuelan vessel was a war crime. Let's go ahead and take a listen to this. Hopefully the audio is okay. Let me know if it is not. Let me move my big face out of the way. Let me move my Jewish nose across the screen so we can see Nick. Again, we're not going to watch the whole thing, but this is largely it. And actually the quote's going to do us justice here too. Nick Fuentes addresses the Fed allegations leveled against him in the wake of January 6th, despite being banned from DLive, payment processors, and social media, as well as being placed on a federal no-fly list, having $500,000 in bank funds frozen, and paying over $100,000 in legal fees. So that's kind of a gist here. Let's go ahead and rip it.
You know, a lot of people, I've noticed, people that are critical of me, nothing has stuck to me. I've really had no scandals over the past 7 years. I've been doing the show now almost 7 years. I've had no real scandals, a lot of fake stuff, a lot of stuff that isn't even real. And a lot of people have criticized me and said, well, you didn't get charged on January 6th. That makes you suspicious. But of course, just because I didn't get charged doesn't mean bad things didn't happen to me. And I was maybe the only person that didn't go in the building and wasn't part of a militia that got it as bad as I did. Can you think of one other person that is the case? That they didn't trespass, they didn't enter the building, and they weren't a part of a militia that got it as bad as I did? Because I think about a guy like Alex Jones. Alex Jones and I are in a similar, not the same, but in a similar category. People say, Nick Fuentes, why didn't you get charged? Well, I didn't enter the building. I wasn't part of a militia. I didn't fight with cops or media, and I didn't vandalize anything. As far as I know, nobody has been charged without one of those things being true. There's 11 or 1,200 defendants in the capital case. And as far as I know, every single one of them, it was one or the other or a combination of those four.
And not to mention the fact that Ray Epps is clearly like this. On the flip side, clearly had a much different process than literally everybody else, right? Now, namely, it's like two. Well, there are a couple, but the big two were like Owen Schroyer and Brandon Straka. And I believe largely because they were in two different areas. Their cases got hashed out quite a bit. You also have like the QAnon shaman, you have like the lectern guy, and a couple other cases that were followed pretty heavily. The other big major one of like the unnamed guy who like isn't a content creator was the one whose like son turned him in. And he was in solitary for like 8 months straight or something like that. But I'm at the point where I find it laughable that we're even asking this question. I think if you were asking me, the preponderance of evidence clearly points away from this. It points that he is clearly the target of all other federal assets, especially when you look at the coordinated nature of Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, and so many other attacks that have been against him. You see the way they move in lockstep. The gatekeepers do this stuff. So understand, the reason I'm playing this is hopefully to like, if anyone's not heard him explain himself, just take it for what it is. Here's him explaining himself. Maybe there's a better one, but this is the first one that I found.
The vast majority of them trespassed, and the only ones that got charged that weren't inside the building, they either fought cops, fought media, vandalized something, or they were part of a militia, like Stuart Rhodes and the leader of the Proud Boys, Enrique Tarrio. Neither of them were there, but they were both part of militias. People in their organizations were inside the building. They were talking about guns going in and all that kind of stuff. So a lot of people say it's really weird Nick Fuentes wasn't charged. Not really. Because what would I be charged for? If I got charged, I'd be the only one that got charged that didn't enter the building and didn't fight anybody and wasn't in a militia. And so I think about a guy like Alex Jones. Alex Jones, all of that applies as well. He didn't run a militia.
And on those notes, the video that gets floated around by a lot of people were like, wasn't this you yelling? Is him all the way back in these bleachers, standing up in, I believe, like the middle or up to close of like the back row, where he's just standing shouting with a microphone. And I've not seen any other video evidence that goes beyond that. It's largely just him talking. And I think somebody drew a graph that showed that where he was yelling from was considerably further away than where a lot of these other people were when they got arrested. But again, and this is basically it. We don't need to go through the entire thing here. Obviously, this is a clear kind of push from everyone else who wants to bad jacket Nick. That's the basis of this. They want to poison the well so badly that when racism and he's a white supremacist no longer worked because people were looking and seeing and going, oh, hey, that's clearly not true. They had to go another direction. They had to go a complete other way. They had to go, okay, well, now he's a federal asset. Actually, he's been working for the government this entire time. Like they have to make it some barrier of access so that the average person has this kind of hesitancy when they watch his content, which puts you in a kind of a psychological bent of not taking him as truthful. So again, all these other kind of like psychological elements at work because we are in the age of information warfare. These are the tactics that we are dealing with. And mind you, it's difficult because, much like every other war, like in World War I and World War II, it's defined by the fact there's some evolution of technology being used, and it changes things like so rapidly that people don't even know like how to respond or behave, and it largely determines who the winners and the outcome of the war. The same way that right now we know that it's information warfare, but we don't exactly know like what are the specific tactics. Now, sure, we have some, but we don't know to the full comprehensive and robust extent in which they are employing these tactics and who's involved in them. You can just kind of feel it. Everyone can feel it, and they know that there is a level of synthetic nature to what is going on. And so, take that for what it is. Let me get this up here. Leroy had a super chat in here, if I will find it. Leroy Gaines Perspective. I love the name. I appreciate that, brother. He says, new to the channel, keep up the good work. Would love to see an open panel one day. I've been getting requests about that. I don't think I'll make them a common thing, to be quite honest with you, only if there was a specific debate to have about it. Now, I would be remiss if Dark Cell wasn't included in the first panel. That is something that he has asked me, and I've been open with him about, of having a debate of that form with him for a while. And I think that we would be able to structure it around the woman question, incels, feminism. Everybody loves having those kind of debates. But if I get enough people, we can coordinate it. I'm definitely open to that. Now, I probably won't moderate. I'll probably take a side in the debate, to be all completely honest with you. But we'll see how that works. But that's just a little bit about Nick explaining himself, being a Fed. The last thing I'm going to talk about, before I go ahead and let you guys have a good rest of your Saturday night, is this Ukrainian woman. This Ukrainian woman, or refugee, if you will. Hopefully you guys didn't hear that. You probably did. We have this video. I'm going to kill the audio because we don't need the sound on this. Also, I do appreciate that very much. Thank you, brother. Oh, yeah, that is a good idea. A good idea, actually. Who said that? Yeah, Tix, hit up Ray. It's actually a great idea. I bet you he would. He would definitely, would he be opposed to Dark Zone? I don't know. I'd have to think about it. Good call, Tix. Thank you. I'm going to write that down, actually, before I forget it. Sorry. Okay. I wanted to make sure I remember that. Because Ray, I would imagine would definitely be down for that. So what we have, though, and this just caught my attention largely because I have a daughter. So some of this stuff is kind of hitting me different than it did before I had a daughter, if that makes sense, and take that from what you will. And I'm sure many fathers who might be in here probably know exactly what I'm talking about. I have a different kind of emotionality to me now that I have a daughter. It's wild how God can change you in those ways. But I'll put it on screen here. This is from Homer Pavlos. No idea who it is. It's been floating around. It's been viral for quite a bit. But this is what it says. This is the caption. A Ukrainian war refugee woman fled to America to escape the war. A black man killed her because she was white. Seems she was safer in Ukraine. Now, this video doesn't include any of the actual violent bits of it. It stops it. But it caught my attention so bad because it was just the nature of this, right? And so, obviously this girl looks like she's a leftist, okay? She looks like she's a leftist. She probably has a nose ring or something. She's probably a liberal. She probably has all these opinions that you wouldn't enjoy. That doesn't mean I think she should be literally stabbed to death. Doesn't mean I think that harm should come her way. In fact, it shouldn't at all. Just because we disagree politically. And part of it, and part of it is this. Part of it is the fact that I do recognize the fact that women are meant to be men's helpmate, and thus they are built for entirely different avenues than what men are built for. And so in that respect, I just see the failure of man here. She shouldn't have had to lead her country. She shouldn't even have to be a refugee from war, right? But the idea being, though, that all I see here is this tiny, tiny woman who could probably barely lift 40 pounds over her head, and she gets stabbed to death senselessly, all because she sat near a black person. Now, I will say, I don't know if she's actually, if she passed. I will say that. I know she got stabbed. But we'll go ahead and play this, right? So just because she decided to sit in this bench, a seat ahead of this guy, he starts plotting, thinking. He's like, man, I can feel these urges. And then boom, just like that, out of nowhere, she's getting stabbed. Now, this is why I'm going to stop it, because the rest of the video is just following him to the train as blood drips off of his knife, and he trails around, and no one even knows what's going on. No one even knows what's going on. That video pissed me off so much because all I could seriously think was like, what if that was my daughter? And I'm telling you, there's no fire that burns brighter in my body than when I put something in that perspective. It made it made me want to shake. And maybe I'm just, maybe I'm a bit too human. Maybe I'm a bit too in my feelings about it. But tell you what, do that. There's no Jew nor black nor shit government that will ever beat me to a position where I destroy my humanity just to exist at an easier rate in this life. I think at this point, like, if you see something like that and it didn't trigger you or piss you off or anger you in some way, you are the one with the problem. You are the one who has lost your humanity. Now, partially, maybe it's not even fully your fault. Maybe part of it's the fact that you are doom scrolling nonstop, and like many people, and like sometimes I do, Your ability to have dopamine, feel happiness, serotonin, your chemicals are all destroyed. You eat industrial poison for a living. You've had McDonald's 3 times this week. Thank you, Imperfect Citizen. Ernia Sarutska, 2002 to 2025. She was 23 years old. Thank you, Treadlam. May Christ accept her eternal soul. Amen. Amen. Now, what I'm not going to do is have a terribly optic, position of Andrew Wilson where he says, she deserved it. I ultimately do think that women are consequential to the fact that a lot of what's happening is because of the way that they vote and their voting patterns. Yes. But do I think that deserves a 23-year-old needs to be stabbed by a black randomly on a subway? Not even close. Not even comparable. Pain, dude. I see that and I'm full of pain. Anger, sadness. Andrew has been disappointing lately. I do agree with that, Mr. Sunrise. It's not the way it's supposed to be. And I tell you what, I do love Andrew, and I think he did a good job clarifying after the fact. But we have to address the elephant in the room, which is women voting is a huge barrier to this. Women voting is making this more a thing. And in fact, it's on 2 elements. If women didn't vote, a lot of men who only can get sexual access from that specific, the sneaky fucker route, and forgive the language, but that is the term. Then, what do you expect? Get rid of it. Because then men aren't going to be changing different things, right? They're not going to be doing these weird, dancing and in discourse to appease women. Because he won't have to appeal to a woman who has no vote. So there's a lot of different elements that need change. It is a huge aspect. These Knives says, Andrew said that, the thing is, dudes, is I have withheld saying anything about this because Andrew deleted the post that everyone attacked him for. So I was never able to look at the original posts. I was only ever able to look at quotes, what people said afterwards, what he said in clarification afterwards. But he did delete the post. And it was about the girl in the UK who flashed the cleaver and the machete to the camera. So it was even worse. It was she was 12 years old. Now, was that a specific language? It was in the element of women voting patterns. This is why. So with that, I would like to be able to give an affirmative answer of what he actually said, but he deleted the post. So I can't even give you an affirmative of he said this, he deleted it. But he did clarify after the fact. And I think, I don't think Andrew was sitting there going yes, little girls getting attacked and assaulted on, in the UK. I think it was just in a dunk attempt on women, he missed the bigger picture. I think that's really all it was. I don't want to leave on a bad note. I don't want to leave on a sad note. So, Christ is King. I am nothing without Jesus Christ. Hopefully you guys all end up going to church tomorrow. I hope everybody has a good rest of your weekend. I know the NFL has picked up this week. Don't get absorbed and lost in a sports ball. Don't let it consume your life. Have fun, sure. Hang out with your friends, but don't let it consume you. Make sure you're still paying attention, or good not talk. And with that, guys, make sure you smash the like button. Make sure you have subscribed to the show if you have not already. My mods are trained to hunt you down like Craven. I trained them myself personally. I have one in a cage back here right now, waiting. No, I'm just messing. I think my mods hate me sometimes, actually. But with that, I do hope you guys have a good rest of your night. Try to watch some college football. Try to stay active. Pay attention. If any of you in my chat are overweight, lose it. This isn't me fat shaming you. This is me telling you to be a better man. If any of you need assistance with any element in your life, make sure you're pursuing those roles, those goals. Obviously, the ethos of who we are matters a whole lot more than the logic and the pathos. That's just the where we are at in this, in this space. I appreciate all of you. I appreciate everybody for being here. It's always a blast with you guys. Thank you very much. And I will see you guys in the next one. Can't forget though, deport Kash Patel, send him back to wherever the hell he came from. Ban women from public life. Lord, please. And hopefully with one step at a time, we can win back this country. But guys, it's going to be a hard road. I'll read this last super chat before I go. Danny says, the guys love you, man. No glow. I appreciate that. Discord link. Does anybody have the Discord link? I can grab it real quick if I can pull it up. It'll let me. Okay, Tick's got it in there. Okay, I don't have to worry about it now. Tick's got it in there. Let me get rid of the Discord window. It's huge. It's taking up my whole screen. Thank you very much. Appreciate you guys. Huge shout out to the mods. Always doing great. Appreciate everybody for being here. Try to do more solo shows. I'll see you guys next time. Take care. Crisis King. Love you all. Peace out.
What's good, everybody? This is Atlas Thug. As much as we have, it's currently a media blackout right now.
It's about a 10-minute video here. Get the libertarians out of this party, dude.
Part of a new series I'm going to be running called Bot or Not.
I grew up as a white man, and you're the exact opposite, you know?
It's time we have a difficult conversation about race. 40 IQ points it needs to think about what is being told to you.
Most people are just blatantly apathetic to what goes on around in their surroundings, let alone just blatantly.
A trans woman's penis make you gay?
Can I decline to answer that comment?
The dating market is for men your age.
I'm not a misogynist. I'm a sexist.
Right, like for example, like as a white man, I can go out and I could go right here in Columbus and scream the N-word as loud as I wanted to because I have that privilege. Those who would sacrifice a little freedom for a little convenience serves neither.
Titan says, Browns should be for whites. We were just trying to help them run a better empire.
Hey, truth.
But she's straight up, she's like, stock market. She's like, bro, like, I can't even buy a fucking house. Like,
And, it probably doesn't help that half the comments are, oh, you're not banned on YouTube. Man, how is this guy? How is this guy not banned on YouTube? It's like, yeah, I'm sure YouTube probably picks up on those things. And they're probably wondering why so many people are saying that,
and all these top brass pundits who have some kind of association or relationship with Epstein, it's getting to the point where you got to think like I'm about to go look at my residential history and be like, did I live next to Epstein for like some time? Like, man, everyone on this planet must have some relation to Epstein. And then you go, oh, actually, no. This is because the administration is all wrapped in together with it themselves.
and I said this maybe about a year ago, what if Christianity wasn't in such a cucked position that what if Andrew Tate, like Tristan, would have went to a Christian position? Fell for it again award, #1 right here. And you know what? I can't even make fun of the audience because I fell for it too. And that's probably what I'm most pissed about. He's huffing some extreme copium. Oh yeah, sister, you definitely owned him. Hey, can I see you after tonight? It's like that's that's what you're competing up against because or bad jacketing him and calling him a weird little gay.
Is this like alt-right corpse husband? What am I listening to? Okay, stop it. This guy's gonna get into statistics, stuff like that.
Oh, no, statistics. Not on the show. We don't do statistics.